When we say Loadex, we say we are India's first on-demand aggregation and vehicle booking platform for commercial cargo vehicles. But our focus is primarily on L5 vehicles, which are three-wheel, high-speed, and N1 vehicles, which are four-wheel electric vehicles. We don't work as such in L3. So we count ourselves as in, you can say, Lyft or Uber for logistics, where anyone who wants to access commercial cargo vehicle between payload of 1 to 1000 kgs can give us a mobile missed call to book the vehicle, or use our mobile app for a handy experience of booking the vehicle. But as it is hardcore logistics, so majority, like 99% of our bookings, they come from toll-free number. This is a very surprising fact, although we have a very good mobile application, but a lot of people, they just see the mobile application to check the fare. After that, they give us a call or they give us a missed call to do the bookings. So this is something, a learning for ourselves also, and we definitely, you know, try to propagate this to everyone, wherein people are focusing a lot on tech part of it, but in logistics, specifically in a new technology, nothing works without human interface. So everyone gets the confidence once they talk about what they want to do and how they want to make this trip happen with us by talking to our team and then booking the vehicle. So this is the company. Right now we are running the electric fleet of three wheels electric vehicles only, because the issue is right now no OEM has a proper clearance with the N1 electric, four-wheel electric in India. We are tracking to 1 to 1000 kg payload, the only one in the country who have reached the 700 kg mark in logistics using EVs. And we cater to three categories. First is definitely the first mile, where we ensure the first mile pickups in logistics. Then we cater to last mile logistics, where we work with a lot of pharmaceutical, e-commerce, recycling, and FMCG and modern retail companies. And the third thing, the third genre which we have entered last month itself, it is into line haul and last mile, wherein our vehicles ensure that we carry the shipment overnight with us and then we deliver the next day, which happens in modern trade. So this right now, Loadex is the only one in the country which is doing line haul, where there is a haul in the delivery. Let's say we pick up the shipment today and the delivery happens the next day. So the shipment is tentatively and progressively kept in our own vehicle and we deliver it next day. We started out of Kolkata. Unfortunately, ironically, in Calcutta, EVs are banned, commercial cargo vehicles and electric rickshaws. So it was a big challenge for us to start operating. But luckily, we were able to scale through, go through the model. And right now, we are happily running 21 of our own vehicles, 45 in testing, and almost the similar amount in aggregation. When we say we are India's first logistics focused company, so there are a lot of fleet operators, fleet leasing people, companies who are leasing L3, L5 vehicles to different people who are catering to e-commerce. While e-commerce for us is a small section of our business, where our major focus is primarily to, you know, cater people and companies who want the vehicle on demand. Let's say even a vegetable vendor to a waste recycler to a normal shopkeeper to a tire manufacturer, anyone can access our vehicle on a mobile tab. We are promoted, I along with other co-founder, Mr. Vikash Kandoi. So we are promoted by a couple of members in Birla family. And we are based out of Calcutta. We have recently started in Hyderabad and Haryana, Faridabad and Delhi. So there's the problem. So we never count, you know, vehicle leasing people like Smarty, Euler, Gayam as our competitors. They are definitely making this ecosystem well connected. We count traditional logistics players, Porter, Loadshare as our competitors because they are doing the exact same thing which we do with electric vehicles. Our major portion of business comes from FMCG and modern retail, while e-commerce count for around 15 to 20% of our business. This is our solution. We have a real-time vehicle booking application which enables user to book any electric powered cargo vehicle as per their time slots and affordability. We bet on our pricing. we ask customer to show their current transport bills and we give them flat 20% off for the lifetime trips they take with us. So we bet that our prices are no matter in B2B, B2C, 20% less than the market. Then we have a toll-free number to book the vehicles instantly. I was talking about this only, the first slide. 99% of our bookings come from toll-free number. Although we are a tech company, but honestly, this is the parameter which defines this market in India, that in logistics, nothing moves without a human interface. And then we have different types of on-demand, weekly, monthly subscriptions for people, logistics companies, customers to take and get a flat 20% off on their lifetime booking. So this is the basic functionality, how we operate. And we work on decentralized model, the only one in the country right now, while other people work on centralized hub scope model, where there 20, 25 vehicles stand in a hub overnight, get charged. Our model is way different, where we create a charging garage system at the driver's place itself, so that whenever they get the bookings overnight, midnight, in a day, they can just pick up the vehicle and go for the booking. So this is a decentralized model on which we work, and that helps us to create a lot of charging points. So let's say if our driver is doing a trip of 45 kilometers, and if our other driver has a garage or home location within that 45 kilometers, then we create a hotspot or charging point in that hub of other driver. So our drivers never face that range anxiety that they will do a trip and they'll be unable to come back. So typical on-demand model, but bit of tech part in this whole garaging and decentralized charging system. So this is what we do, and this is our team. I think we have already disclosed on a lot of social platforms. So this is the team. It includes me, Mr. Vikash Kandoi, Maitri Kandoi. Maitri Kandoi comes from BK Redla family herself, and Vikash Kandoi has ownership in 18 companies, which includes big colleges like BIMTech, Bella Global University, and all. So I think that is from our side what we do at Loadex, and I would preferably now pass into things wherein I would invite for the QA, and it will be really helpful if we can go forward in that. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for this short introduction. It gives us a good idea of what Loadex does and how is it different from the rest of the players. So we will start with some questions that we received at the time of registration. Once there are 10 or 12 questions, and after that, any questions typed in the chat box, we will come to those. Right. So first question, I'm sure you get this a lot, is what are the major issues, performance issues and maintenance issues that you face while running a fleet of electric vehicles?
Okay. So the first biggest problem in this whole ecosystem is that there are no good OEMs who can make Indian road fit vehicles. The typical import section from China and assembling it here is not going to do any justice to this ecosystem, flat and blunt, as I can say. So our major time goes in working with OEMs to help them improve their vehicles so that their vehicles can survive 4 or 5 years on Indian roads. So the first problem which we have already targeted is normal vehicle breakdown on Indian roads, because those vehicles are of not good quality. So we have started solving that problem from the base itself, where we spend a lot of time with the OEMs before onboarding a vehicle rather than after facing the problems afterwards after deploying the vehicle. So we save a lot of time and money in investing in the vehicle procurement itself rather than after deployment. And secondly, yes, these are cargo vehicles. We need to be realistic in India. Cargo vehicles get caught by police, cargo vehicles get into traffic, they get into accidents. So they require monthly maintenance, at least in typical battery water replacement, if it's lead acid, or typical replacements of shockers and all those things. So that we do with a predictive maintenance tool we have, which is used after every 15 days, or a green red alarms for different maintenance portfolio. So that is how we do. We spend a lot of time in procurement, but after procurement, our major work is done by our predictive maintenance. Yeah.
Okay, right. Next question is, what is the unit economics in last mile using electric vehicles?
It depends in which model the people are running their EVs. So if you talk about the B2B market, starting from, let's say, e-commerce, so it depends on the city where we are operating. Let's say in Calcutta and Havra, the parallel market of conventional IC vehicles like Tata Ace, Piaggio A has dropped to a dead point. Drop to a dead point means after lockdown, these people have dropped their rates so much that it is practically impossible for an EV owner to raise his or her prices. So the parallel market has collapsed. So we have to adjust our prices as per that. Let's say if someone is getting a Tata Ace in 34,000 kilometers for 2,000 kilometers a month, I cannot charge someone 35,000 kilometers for 2,000 because Tata Ace gives them more volume, more weight carrying capacity. So this thing, unfortunately, people are unable to right now understand, which we see a lot in this ecosystem, that they are living in isolation. They think that that flat 32 to 37,000 per month is going to stay with them, which is not going to happen. It has happened in Calcutta and Havana. It will happen in Mumbai, Bangalore, and Chennai also. When parallel market will collapse in the pricing, so that you also have to adjust your prices. Now let us talk about B2B economics. Our L5 vehicle in, let's say, if I talk about three sectors, FMCG, e-commerce, and modern retail, we normally cater to 31,000 to 39,000 per month, which includes the revenue. This is a top line. So we need to pay the parking, charging, we need to pay the drivers and maintenance. And this also includes one very important factor, that is how much our vehicle is utilized. Like if we cater to modern retail, so our vehicle is utilized in $1,000 for 24 hours. Like we pick up the shipment today and we deliver till tomorrow same time. So tentatively we only get $1,000, but our vehicle is utilized for 24 hours, which includes the shipment being in our vehicle. That is a very high risk business because we have to put the shipment in our vehicle overnight in our own facility. It can be of any value. So if you take, let's say 1,000 to 1,200 rupees on a day as an average in B2B, the whole value comes to between 31,000 to 39,000 in B2B for an L5 vehicle. An L5 vehicle which can carry to 800,000 kgs of weight. While if you talk about the on-demand B2C, where our whole vision lies, the earning ranges between 28,000 to 44,000 per month. It depends on what type of trip we get. So if we get a very long trip, which is over 50 kilometers on one side, then we charge, let's say 1,500, 1,400 bucks. But our normal trip value ranges between 700 to 1,100. So in B2C, the earning is high, but the utilization of vehicle is low. Like in B2B, utilization is over 98%, while in B2C, the utilization is over 62. So the risk is actually nudged there, and the whole model comes down to that how many vehicles are utilized at a particular point of time. The earning in B2B, B2C overall, you can take between 32 to 35,000 from the top line. Right now in the cities where we are operating, out of our principles, where we ensure that our driver doesn't work over 11 hours. If I go in that model where I push my driver to work for 15, 16 hours, definitely we can earn around 39, 40, but that is not our vision to possibly go forward and beat that range. So we work on very healthy conditions for the driver.
Another question that has been asked by 2 or 3 different participants is, ideally, what is the vehicle configuration that suits your business model the best in terms of load area dimensions, carrying capacity, range, etc.?
This whole ecosystem right now, which is developing at a very good rate, fortunately and unfortunately works on 48 volt in India. I don't know how it has been configured or carried or copied, but 48 volt is always going to do help for the last mile delivery, where the payload is not going to be over 550. But when you talk about logistics, where if your vehicle goes to a customer place and he or she doesn't give any hue and cue to what your vehicle can carry, they will just put the load until the vehicle is full. So for that configuration, where you need to ensure your vehicle doesn't break down, 48 volt cannot suffice the logistics need in EVs. So all our vehicles run on 60 volt configuration. So battery configuration we normally use is 60 volt to 130 Ah, 140 Ah. And for vehicle, our individual three-wheel tire vehicle, let's say, each tire can carry 500 kg payload on an individual level. So even in the worst time limit, what we carry is, we have even carried 1250 kgs in our vehicle in worst time limit. But with the battery, this is what we do. And for the vehicle, our container size varies between 5 feet to 6 feet long, 4 to 4.5 feet broad, and around 4.25 to 5 feet is the height. So overall 118 to 128 cubic feet volume with a differential size of 42 inches.
Okay. Okay. So do you have any L3 vehicles in your fleet as well?
Yes, initially we started with L3 itself to test the model. Unfortunately, we wanted to keep them in test mode, wherein if any new driver is joining us in aggregation or ownership model, we can use those vehicles to test that driver and his or his her skills in training. But right now, all our L3 are oversubscribed. Like we only had 6, 7 L3s, and they all are totally running 31 days a month. So we have not onboarded any more L3 after those L3s. And they were typically test vehicles, but unfortunately, as we are oversubscribed in L3 also, so we are using those vehicles in business.
Okay. And what is the cost of these L3 and L5 vehicles? Because you are making custom vehicles.
So in L3, in our contracts with OEMs, a vehicle with 48-volt battery, 100 Ah configuration, possibly we source around 1.05, like 1.5, 1,05,000, 1,08,000, including batteries. Maximum 110, on road it can be till 1.2 or 1.24. While for L5 vehicle, right now we are sourcing between 1.75 lakh to 2 lakh 5,000, depending upon the container fabrication, battery configuration and all. That is how we go forward. And there's a huge difference between a lithium ion vehicle and lead acid vehicle, which we run. So that actually normalizes the capex. That is the major hindrance for people to enter this market. Because if you are putting a lead acid vehicle, let's say in 2.1 or 2.2 lakh on road, and you are earning the same amount, and over the period of 5 years, the total cost of ownership less than a lithium vehicle, then that actually opens up a market. But again, it is again a hindrance for people who are very lithium favorable parties. They don't, I don't know, possibly we run vehicles on both the models, but we realize that still the prices of lithium has to go down, at least both in ownership as well as in swapping. Because right now we have 50% difference, 50% difference in the capex itself, even more than that.
Right, right. Okay. Do the vehicles you have, do they use all Indian components?
No. So there are a lot of OEMs who claim that, okay, all our components are Indian, but practically and honestly, we all know that that cannot happen, and that doesn't happen at all. So majority of our vehicles, unfortunately, at least the controller part, not the motor part, controller part, these OEMs source from China and Taiwan. But for the body and all the other configuration, yes, everything is done in-house in the OEM's place. Like there are a lot of OEMs who even import the containers from China, like the containers in the vehicle. But we get our containers fabricate like typical Tata Ace steel body right in the facility of the OEM. So that whatever we can ensure, we ensure. But unfortunately, yes, around 20 to 25% components are still sourced from China.
Okay. And what motor power are you finding most useful, assuming you will have different vehicles with different motor powers?
See, again, it depends on which OEM you are buying from. Let's say, if I talk about typical BLDC motor from two top OEMs in China, which are Datai and Sewai. So in Datai, if I'm using a motor, my 1.5 kilowatt motor can even carry 1000 kg payload. While for the other OEMs, the same work is done by 2 kilowatt motor. So that depends. But right now we are using maximum 1.5 kilowatt, not more than that.
Okay, okay. And what do you prefer? That your loader has a large battery with long range or smaller batteries with swapping ability? And are you using swapping at all, or are they all fixed batteries?
So we started with fixed one, but owing to our partners and our mandate with our investors, debt investors, that we'll be switching to swapping and lithium, we have started putting the fleet in swapping model. But our 80% fleet right now is on fixed battery model, and rest 20, which are in the current production line for the aggregation mode, they will be on swapping model. But they will again be on 60 volt, not on 48 volt swapping.
Okay, but what's your preference? I mean, based on your
See,
experience.
experience tells us ki, if we want to work in that mode that I know that my vehicle will run only for 40, 50, 60 kilometers in a day, it will come back to my hub and I'm safe, secure, sleepy. Then lithium is fine for me. But if that is not the case, where we cater to locals run for 140 kilometers in a day, so there lead acid has a very big advantage. Because even if you have 4% battery remaining in your vehicle, the battery vehicle, if a driver is sensible, can run till 10, 15 more kilometers. But with the lithium ion battery, the vehicle will stop instantly because the DOD limit has reached. So there the lead acid can actually be useful. But if I know I have a definite running business model using my technology and algorithm, there I think lithium ion will score well because I'll have the swapping options.
Okay. One interesting question. How many EVs do you have deployed currently? And do you believe you will need a smaller fleet if the range was better?
So when I talk about the size right now, in our own ownership, which we are trying to reduce, in production or let's say in testing, we have around 48. On road, we have around 29. And in aggregation model, in paying basis, we have around 12. And in non-paying basis, non-paying means we are not taking any money right now in aggregation. We are giving 100% of the trip value to the owners. In that case, we have around 84. We are testing that whole model using our tech and algorithm, that how we can ensure maximum utilization of vehicle. So overall, we are playing around with 100 vehicles, but in revenue mode, we have around 34.
Okay. And the second part of this question, if these vehicles had better range, do you think you would need less number of vehicles?
I think, yes, in some business models, yes, specifically in I'd say, with FMCG companies and all, or the white goods companies. But when you talk about line haul or modern retail or e-commerce, there's practically no use of going in longer limit, because you know that the vehicle will run for 50, 80 kilometers in a day and vehicle will run for 12 hours. So even if you want to use your vehicle after that, your driver will not drive. That's the whole issue. In B2C, if a driver has gone on a trip, he or she will come back after completing that trip. But in B2B, they know that, okay, my trip is from here to here and I'll just complete it. So there's no point of, engaging or putting more power in the vehicle when we know that, okay, driver is not going to drive your vehicle after 12 hours. So in few models, yes, it will be helpful. But in few, I think range anxiety is not a big issue.
Okay. And what is the range generally of your current vehicles?
Around 100 to 125 kilometers per charge on partial and full load.
Okay, got it. Next question is, what is the real size of the market for logistics vehicle?
Again, the market, when we talk about India, so 80% of the last mile market is still unorganized. Unorganized means either in, let's say in tier 3 cities or rural areas, they are done by jugaad vehicles, which we say, like typical generator fitted vehicles and all. So if you talk about the delivery market, it is around $5 billion annual market as per the NEGP report of 2018. But I'm talking about a very small section. Now, if I talk about the logistics and unorganized market in India, our 80% of the bookings come from unorganized market. And that market is immensely huge and much bigger. So how we have calculated based on our initial 1,000 customers that e-commerce and last mile delivery caters to only 10% of the last mile logistics market in India. And rest 90 is still owned by unorganized players, different other businesses, wholesale, trading, and recycling. And the surprising fact is that a lot of normal transporters and organized players are giving services to e-commerce companies in line, but they are not considered as formal engagement partners. They are still considered as transporters. So that's an unfortunate thing to actually meddle with. Like they're giving services on paper, but they are still considered tempu wala, which unfortunately is not a good sign for a country which wants more and more people to be in a formal economy.
Right. Okay. How do you decide the area of operation with the given battery life?
Yeah, so that thing is catered by our tech, wherein our predictive, first of all, there are three factors in this. First of all, the first factor is about from the battery, the charging status in real time. Second thing is the garage or the driver's home location. Okay. And third thing is whether the battery retention factor will be over the, let's say, 0.3 or 0.4, so that the driver can come back. Or we have the neighboring charging point or neighboring another garage where the trip is happening. So our tech works in a way where we ensure no driver gets the trip in outside 20 kilometers radius of his or her garage location.
Okay.
Whether the pickup point or the drop point will be in that radius.
Okay.
Okay. And secondly, with addition of almost 1 or 2 garages daily in our portfolio, now we have created a lot of charging hubs from decentralized mode. So we are also including that in our tech while allocating the trips.
Okay, on chat there are questions from Amandeep Thakur. How do you manage registration in different states?
Till date, we were only focused on Delhi, NCR, and Bengal. To cater, even we are facing this challenge that in order to register our vehicle in any state, we need to have an office and GST there. Then only we can register the vehicle in company's name. So we saw that we have got a huge demand in these cities, but it was taking a lot of time to complete the legal processes. So a couple of days back, only Lodex has opened its franchisee model to cater to that problem, where anyone who can invest, let's say, to buy even one vehicle, can buy the vehicle in their name, in his or her name, and we will ensure to give them monthly business or monthly definite amount on, let's say, 15-16% of annual returns, and we will deploy the vehicle. So the only onus on them is to buy the vehicle from their local recommended OEM, whom we will recommend, and just register it. Because individual registrations are still far easy, while registrations in company's name is still a big challenge in few states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal.
Our next question is from Shubham More, and he's asking what components mostly fail in an electric vehicle?
What components?
Fail.
First thing is, okay, yeah. First thing is definitely the body. Body means if you are having that typical fiber or plastic containers and all, they will, they are fine for e-commerce deliveries, but if you use them in Indian road conditions and in logistics, they will just tear out in just 12-13 months. So you need to have a proper fabricated container boxes if you want to keep your life of the vehicle for 4-5 years. Second thing, with lithium-ion based vehicles, with the excessive withdrawing of the current, because the voltage is constant, 48 volt is constant, and if you are putting overweight in that, or if you are loading it high, then the vehicle draws more current from the battery, which heats the battery and destroys the BMS and even result in sparking and blasting of the batteries. So that whole component part where BMS becomes faulty is one of the major roadblock in use of lithium-ion batteries properly in a vehicle. And yes, these normal cargo vehicles nuisance like daily maintenance or monthly maintenance thing is another way. But I think these two factors are the major one in the vehicle. Lastly, motor controller, if you use it properly, where you know that your chassis can carry that load, so they can work for 3-4 years. Motor controllers have good life, but the only problem happens with the BMS or the body side of the vehicle, where the body, even in a small jerk or accident, the whole body breaks down because those are the TFF or plastic or fiber made bodies, which unfortunately are not fit for Indian roads.
Okay. Our next question is from Udit, and he wants to know, is there any disruptive technology in EV that we are looking being adopted in Western countries that India can also look at from cost or mileage perspective in last mile logistics?
So the biggest mistake which I think Indians did was copying the 48 volt system from Europe, which I really think has created a whole nuisance here, because we have limited our whole scope to 500 kg payload because of that whole 48 volt system. So when we talk about the Western countries, the only advantage these people or these countries have is they have strict nomenclature when it comes to the weight part. If a truck can carry 800 kgs, it will only carry 800. It will not happen like India that it is carrying 1800 kgs in overload. So their vehicle runs for longer time because they carry the standards. They follow the standards given by the OEMs when they purchase the vehicle. While in India, overloading is the second next door thing you see on Indian roads. So the only tech which Indians, I think in next 3 years will adopt from Western countries will come in fast charging solutions. A lot of fast charging and fast discharging and charging solutions coming in battery technology, especially in cobalt-free batteries and all will actually help Indian market. So we Indians need to keep an eye on battery technologies for next 3 years.
Okay. There is one question. If you can elaborate on the charging systems that you have. So, what kind of charging systems do you depend on? Do you have captive charging stations, or do you charge at any public charging stations as well?
Hmm.
What is your current ecosystem, charging ecosystem like?
So our model is very simple. Let's say if I want to deploy a vehicle in a place called Paharganj in Delhi, so I will just hire a driver who lives in the 2 kilometers radius of that area, so that the driver doesn't spend a lot of time on the fuel, so the charging point where the vehicle. Instead, the driver has the confidence that okay, he or she will get out of his or her house and he or she will get the vehicle. So our major functionality lies in how we find the drivers and deploy them in the busiest routes. So first thing is we create the garaging and charging right at the driver's place itself. And if they don't have that type of setup, then we do it in the nearest available e-rickshaw charging or e-rickshaw parking place, where we incentivize the owner for a bit of higher pricing for the garaging, but we ensure that the driver spend maximum of 10 to 50 minutes to reach the garage or charging. While if you see the players who are in the leasing market, there the drivers have to come to their hubs daily in the morning on their bikes, on public transport. They spend a huge chunk of money, and after 12 hours of long shift, then they have to go back again to their homes. So the tentative shift of a driver runs to 15, 16 hours, which is for probably which we count as inhumane. So we leave our tech, the major modality comes in how we are ensuring that where we have to deploy the driver and the vehicle. And our parking garaging happens at a very decentralized level by deploying very basic electrification resources at the driver's places. And we pay the driver additional to his or her salary for that. Like every month we pay him or her for garaging, charging extra.
Okay. Next question is from Amandeep. Are you using 1500-watt motor controllers in L5 vehicles?
Yes, all 1500 and even 1250. Where our payload capacity carrying is still 750, so we only use 1250 watts.
Okay. I think we have covered all the questions that had come. So if there are any more questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and speak directly. Amandeep, there's one more question from Amandeep. Do you want to give any message to the OEMs on which you think they need to work and how they can improve the whole EV experience?
I think first message which I would actually like to share is that OEMs need to broaden their vision in the country. If the vision is just to sell 1,000, 2,000 vehicles, then they are typically not OEMs, they are just traders. So first of all, they need to enhance their vision that if they'll make good vehicles, then only they'll be able to sell it. If you want to make money selling 2,000 vehicles and on the buck out of it, then possibly you are just trading, you are not making a vehicle. So that's the first major issue which OEMs have, that they just want to sell. They are not focusing on why and how Indian roads are still not appropriate for the vehicles which are being made in India currently. And why, if we are taking an IC vehicle, we take the depreciation over 10 years. While for an EV, all the financiers and NBFCs take the depreciation between 2 to 5 years. So that is a pathetic state. Like at one side, you are considering an IC vehicle depreciate over 10 to 12 years. While for an EV, you are considering that your vehicle will depreciate in just 24 months to 48 months. So you can imagine the pathetic state our ecosystem right now is when it comes to quality of vehicles, that no banker, no NBFC is able to believe you, because they don't believe that your vehicles can even survive after 48 months. So that is something where OEMs need to work a lot on quality. Secondly, the after sales. That's the biggest notion which we people have in the country. Like we sell the vehicle and we forget the customer. But if you are not giving the after sales to a customer, especially in cargo vehicles, then the customer is never going to recommend you ever to anyone. So that is also one of the major factors where a lot of companies are coming in, which help you in doing the predictive and apparent maintenance. But I think it should come from OEM side, where they ensure that initial 6 months, 8 months after sales or services should come from them. Like I personally know big OEMs when they keep the vehicles in maintenance, they keep the vehicles for 15 days and then they return it back. So what happens is tentatively you are killing 15 days of employment for a driver. The driver is losing 15,000 or 13,000 of rupees just to ensure that his or her vehicle is getting repaired. So that also has to come down. Where the dealership level, like OEMs are OEMs, but the vehicles are sold by dealers. But at dealership level, people don't have any idea about how to fix the vehicle, specifically lithium-ion vehicles. So what they do, if I go with my vehicle at dealership and they ask me, okay, you leave the vehicle for 10 days, 1 week, I'll fix your vehicle. So tentatively, I'm losing 8,000, 10,000 of rupees being a driver in the name of getting my vehicle repaired. So first thing is definitely the quality. Second thing is after sales, where OEMs need to focus on, because if they improve the quality, definitely the payload carrying capacity will enhance. This is for sure. So these two things we see are biggest challenges.
Amit, one question I wanted to ask. There are retrofitted LCVs coming up. Some of the companies, they are retrofitting old Tata Ace vehicles. Do you have any experience with those vehicles in your opinion?
Yes, we tried a lot of them. The problem is those vehicles cannot catch the market sentiment. You need to understand, a person who knows that Tata Ace is a Tata Ace, it's chota, like, a typical chota hathi, which they say he or she can get in 6.5 lakhs, can carry till 2 ton, even over that, and he or she is getting 1 year of after sales service. And then there is that old Tata Ace retrofitted, and it only has 5 years of warranty, and they need to buy it at 8.4 lakh. So there is no market sentiment attached to it. Individual fleet owners, transporters are not going to buy. Yes, companies like us or logistics companies, just to go forward with the go green factor to impress their board, they can definitely buy a couple of them, but it is not going to do any justice. And retrofitting eventually is not even allowed in all Indian states. In West Bengal, you can't even register a retrofitted vehicle. Okay. So I don't want to talk about the policy level challenges, but OEM should understand the market sentiment. That if a person is getting a Tata Ace at 6 lakh, which can carry more volume, double the weight, and can run till 10 years, why he or she will buy a 5-6 years old vehicle retrofitted with 8.2 lakhs? Leave the OPEX thing. Right now, OPEX has also dropped. I don't know why people are still calculating the operational cost with the 10 years old slides they are using. Now the OPEX cost, leave the cost of diesel, but the debt pricing has reached in IC vehicles. Like, we cannot, being EV fleet owners, we are unable to compete with Tata Ace because their prices have, operational costs have dropped considerably. So people need to understand the market sentiment, that what will impress the buyer to buy a vehicle.
Okay.
Hi, Preksha. I have a question. I'm allowed to ask?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, Amit. This is Balaji. Actually, we are catering almost 4 to 5 customers last mile deliveries in Bihar and Maharashtra. So this is totally last mile, where I was handling per day 500 to 600 deliveries, and I'm using almost 150 plus Tata Aces and Ape autos in these locations. So I try to convert those vehicles into EVs, where my operation cost for the Tata Aces, as you are aware, it's 15 to 20 rupees and 20 rupees. So I try to reduce the cost, and as Priyaksha said, I have tried one of my vehicle to convert into retrofitted into electric vehicle, but I don't find any of actions in this. So what you suggest for me to convert those areas, either whether I can go directly into it, or I can onboard a partner, or I can have a tie-up with the Loadex. So what is the options you can suggest for me?
Okay. So,
sorry, to give you a perspective, the delivery radius would be varies from 50 to 300 kilometers.
50 to 300?
2 way.
Sorry, 50 to 250 kilometers, right?
50 to 250 kilometers, 2 way.
Okay, 2 way. Okay,
Yeah.
so to and from. Okay, got it. So, yes. See, every technology has a challenge. So with EVs right now, the challenge without swapping is again the radial blockage which we have on the per unit charge and all. So when you talk about sorry, the comparison between the IC vehicles, a good L5 EV can compete with a Piaggio 8. both in weight and volume. But when you talk about comparing it with Tata Ace, I think it is like doing comparison between apples and oranges. Tata Ace is a much different vehicle, both in weight and volume, where three-wheel EV cannot compete that vehicle. First of all, we need to take cognizance of that. And whosoever in the ecosystem right now tells that they can replace Tata Ace with EVs, unfortunately, the shoulder and the chip both are different at different places. So that is one thing. And with the radial distance which you have told, I think EVs for you will be a good option till 130, 140, to and fro very easily. But over that, yes, either we need to, possibly switch into a swapping infra, or still make a mix of the fleet. Like you don't switch to a new technology by totally discarding something which you are using. So let's say you start inducting 30-40% of the fleet as EV, and then once you see a cost saving over the period of 2-3 months, then we can always have a plan model. Like Lodex runs a challenge where we ensure that in a month we electrify the whole fleet of any customer based on the route planning and route mapping. So that depends on, once you learn that, okay, what is your average cost saving and how comfortable is your driver driving an EV? Because I don't know why people don't talk about this, but driving a steering based vehicle and driving a handle based vehicle even has ego issues with the driver. Like if you are having a steering vehicle, then they say then it is more of a repute for them. While if you have a steering normal handle vehicle, just we consider it as a Toto or an electric rickshaw type of loader. So even that has to be considered. That like we recently started hiring psychology and sociology graduates because we were facing these issues where drivers, they take it on their reputation that they are not going to drive handle based vehicles, which EVs are. They want to drive steering based vehicles also because that gives them more grip. So that is also one thing where in long distances, drivers don't prefer handle based vehicles. So what I'll suggest is retrofitting. You can always go with 1 or 2 vehicles, but don't go for Tata Ace. Go for 3-wheel retrofitting. It will cost you much less and it will give you much good cost benefit analysis. While if you want to switch to EVs, please don't do it in one go. Just ensure that you convert 10, 20, 30% of your fleet. And once you see the cost saving, considering the facts, the driver sentiment, satisfaction issue for you and driver as well, then I think it will be a good help with you to switch to EVs. But retrofitting with 4-wheel still I think is not a good idea in the country. 3-wheel is still sustainable, but with 4-wheel buying a 8 lakh of spending 7-8 lakh of rupees, I don't think so is anyway feasible.
So thank you so much, Amit. You were continuously speaking, you were coughing,
Yes.
but thank you so much. I think I personally learned a lot in this session. It answers a lot of questions that a lot of people who are looking to enter the EV fleet business have on their minds. So thank you everyone for active participation and Amit for sharing your experience and your thoughts with us. Have a great rest of the evening and we'll see you soon in next session. Thank you.